Welcome, sorcerers. Today we got a special treat. We're going to be doing the first interview for sorcery in this channel, and none other than Mike Servati of Collector Arthouse is joining us. Mike,
Yeah,
how's it going?
Sean, Rule Zero. Thank you very much for inviting me on. It's a pleasure. I didn't realize it was your first interview. I've seen like a bunch of your videos, but I see you're getting into interview content. That's cool. It's fun.
Yeah, like you're the initial sorcery interview. Like I've interviewed like a couple of magic creators and back in the day when I did magic stuff, but
Okay.
now that I'm like sorcery all the time, I figured none better. Like I think I first saw your channel trying to figure out which were curios, like so that I didn't miss them. And then from there, I just kind of went down a rabbit hole.
Yeah, curios were definitely the thing I studied in great detail. The collectorarthouse.com is my website, and that curio page gets all the hits and daily views because the company does not officially acknowledge what those are or ever talk about them as if they exist. So which is kind of cool because it's up to the community to do the research. And on my website, I talked to all the artists and got all the stories behind all of 67 of them over the years. So it's a nice resource for the community.
Awesome, man. Yeah, and you do like for anybody who's listening, just tuning in and is just new to sorcery, because there's a lot of them. I can tell from my intro to sorcery video that people are just like, it's crazy how many people are coming over from other card games and stuff to this world just in the past 6 months since I've been here, because I'm new to it. But you've been here since the very beginning. Before the Kickstarter, even, from what I understand, right?
Yeah, so like I think what happened was Eric had set up a Facebook business page, and he opened up a Discord, and then through the grapevine, someone told me about this game. They showed me some of the artwork, and I was immediately like really interested and enthralled with the hand-painted original art. I was like, what is this game? I saw some of the Dan Seagrave artwork and Severin Pinot, like the elemental avatars, and I guess Key Theorem Mechanism was one of the ones that was released in the early days, and I wanted to learn more about it, and it just kind of snowballed there. In the early days, their Discord was very small, so it was very intimate, and Eric was super active in trying to get feedback from the community, so we got to engage with him a great deal too, which was like the first impetus and source of like my research on the history of the game, and where I learned a lot about his early design philosophy and how it evolved over time.
So I'm so curious, like what gets you from that place where I'm just a little curious about it, I'm just following up with stuff, to being like one of 4 #1 backers, like really investing like super heavily
it's actually a funny story, because when that Discord stood up, it must have been 2020-ish, I want to say, something like that. So I discovered the Discord, and the game did not come out in Kickstarter till like a few years later. I think it launched in 2022, and then they fulfilled in 2023. So I was in a Discord for like 2 years or something before the game actually came out, and I didn't know what I was going to pledge. I actually initially went for, there was a pledge tier that had I think it was a case and a sample pack. It was like an early bird type special, and I had that in my cart, and it didn't go through. So then people started talking in the Discord about this other Discord where if people drop their pledge, this was my first Kickstarter I've ever backed, by the way. So like, I didn't know anything about Kickstarter. People were telling me it's non-committal. Don't worry about it. You could jump on any pledge level and you could change your mind, right? So like, I joined this other Discord. Someone dropped the top pledge. I got the notification on my phone, and I got it instantly. I was like really demoralized. I was like, I can't get, like, I wanted the probably the collector tier where I could get a piece of artwork. I didn't know the top backer tier was like 10 grand or something. It was an outrageous sum of money.
It was crazy.
And
for like an unknown card game.
Yeah. So I got it in my card after somebody dropped it, and I called my wife and I was like, hey, I just spent 10 grand on this card game. And she was like, what? Because I played Magic as a kid, and then I was like out of TCGs for like 20 years or something from the Magic early days, because I moved away from where I grew up, and I lost kind of like my early years friends and play group and whatnot. So I was away from the scene. I came back. I started getting in this middle-aged nostalgia kick for this game that reminded me of the early days of Magic, and I was super excited about it. And when I was growing up, I had a friend that had an older brother who had the means to buy a lot of early Magic, so he had all the Power 9, all the great stuff. And I was like, I'm going to go nuts on this game and amass this like unreal collection.
Yeah.
And this like reborn, not Magic 2.0, because it's much different. At that time, it felt like new Magic, right?
Yeah.
But we now know it's quite different in an exciting way.
Yeah. I remember kind of listening to some previous interviews you did, and that whole idea of like, I really resonated with that thing of like, oh, I was into Magic, but then when I went to college, I kind of sold some cards. And I remember you said something like I sold some dual lands or whatever.
Yeah.
For, you know, big bucks at the time, right? Like 20, 30 bucks.
Yeah.
Same, very same. Like I was in it in like 93, 94, went to college. I was like, this game isn't going to last. There's no way. And then like got rid of probably a new car and then some, but like, moving away from that neighborhood where you got to play with all the kid friends, like how old were you then when like you had to like jump away from that? I guess when were you first getting into Magic, and then when did you have to jump out of it?
Yeah, I got in like at the tail end of the early golden era. So I know like Revised was the mainstream thing in stores. So I was buying Revised a lot, but I would go into some local game stores in upstate New York. This was in Rochester, New York. And they would have like on occasion packs of Legends or international packs sometimes somehow, and antiquities. And they were like $15-$16, and we're like, that's outrageous.
Yeah,
like, I'm not buying that. I'm gonna buy Revised for $2-3, you know. So I think I somehow in my collection, I dig it up from time to time, and I have like these random like like a pack's worth of Legends and some of those early things, but it's mostly Revised. And then I moved halfway through freshman year of high school. So I was like 15 years old. And I remember that clearly. I always remember my age because I moved like, I think it was halfway through the school year, which is like pretty rough, like I was in
like the worst time
my whole life, I had acne, I was in high school, I was awkward. And then so I moved to Philadelphia suburbs to a massive school, like way bigger town than I had lived in. So it was a big, like, growing part of life. And when I moved there, I got my license on Halloween day. And I remember the guy joked with me. He's like, you got your mask on, for the license picture. So that's how I remember like when that was and how old I was when I was getting my driver's permit. But
man, what a shift.
Yeah.
Like into this totally new world. I mean, I guess my job personally is like a counselor. So I don't be very counselory, but I'm used to like kind of like I'm really interested in people's stories. And so I kind of resonate with that aspect of what you've been talking about too, with like just interviewing the artist apparently was like a big like moment for you of like, damn, these people are really interesting to talk to. It's kind of neat to get into the behind the scenes. So I'm thinking like, what's the behind the scenes of Mike Servati that gets him from like that point, 20 years down the road, all of a sudden, Kickstarter, nostalgia kick in. I don't know what it is. But like, was there things in the middle there where it was like, I really love art in general. I'm really interested in fantasy art or painting, stuff like that. Or what was it for you that really drew you to sorcery in the first place?
Yeah, that's a good question, because I think it was during that COVID era where like all collectibles were blowing up and stuff. We started revisiting our collection from when we were kids. And so first it was like Flesh and Blood before sorcery existed. And I was like, this is interesting. This is a guy that came from the Magic scene. He was like really into Magic. The designer, James White, the creator of that game. And then, but it was all digital art, right? So then like when sorcery came out, I was first like really blown away by the type of art that was being used with like the Seagrave and like the metal cover albums. I liked Metallica and metal music and stuff growing up, so I kind of like that stuff. But really, I was like nostalgic for the game aspect of it. In my adult life, I told you I have 3 young kids before we started filming here. And so I don't have a lot of time to like play a physical game, go to an LGS, spend hours. I got to be with my kids and my wife all the time. So what I was doing, I was playing Hearthstone when they were babies. I was doing a night shift and I was playing Hearthstone all night. So I still got that TCG itch. And then when I saw the art of sorcery, I started recognizing the names: Jeff Menges, Melissa Benson, Tony Sublow, like these, Jeff Easley, like these early artists that I knew of from that early Magic realm. And I was like, maybe I'll reach out to them and I'll start a website. And like, I wasn't doing YouTube or anything, I wasn't on camera. So I didn't know how to make a website at all. I did tons of YouTube research to make this like real basic website. And I started like messaging the artist, and I was like, hey, I just want to do a Q&A. We're probably both uncomfortable on camera. I'll send you 10 questions and I'll do the research on your answers. I'll write up a nice article. And through that process, I started getting really like sentimentally attached to the artists themselves, the ones I knew from my childhood. And then the discovery of new artists who were that Eric had discovered from the altar scene, from the metal scene. That was like a whole new world where I was discovering all these new great artists and finding out they're really cool, interesting people as well.
Yeah, I think that old Magic had that in common with Sorcery now, was that old Magic really centered the artists as like the rock stars of the game. And the styles were so diverse that you'd have a card like Stasis, or you don't know if you remember some of these cards, but the art was so wild and all over the place that you could really tell. Like I used to have binder pages full of Quentin Hoover art because I wanted to draw like Quentin Hoover. So I was like using him as inspiration for the longest time. And but like I think everybody had their favorite artist or two, like growing up playing Magic. You know, whether they collected Melissa Benson stuff or Anson Maddox or whatever. And so I think New Magic lost that along the way, which is where it kind of lost me. Because I used to go to Grand Prix, sit at artist tables with like RK Post and stuff like that, shoot the shit with them and just like hang out. And I just had such a great time. Even if I sucked at the game that day or whatever.
Yeah, and it was different back then too, because like really I was just into play. I was playing in elementary school and like a little bit into middle school before I moved away in high school. And then they, you know, it started getting expensive the way they pumped out sets and stuff. So I was kind of growing away from it anyway. But at the time, like when I revisited, I'd say I recognized and I remember the artwork. I remember I loved like Fork. I loved Shivan Dragon. Everybody did as a kid, and Vesuvian Doppelganger and all these. I didn't really know the artists or who the artists were playing as a kid. I was just really into playing with my friends and those engaging experiences. It was in my adult life when I started connecting like, wow, the artist that did the artwork for Shivan Dragon and you know, like all the Menges cards that were like really iconic.
Swords to Plowshare, a couple other ones. Yeah, Black Knight,
Swords
stuff like that.
I remember I went to the IX art show and I saw Jeff there and I bought like a couple of his Magic playmats as I was getting into Sorcery. And I was like, oh man, Swords of Plowshare, that's incredible. And it's just like, then I started connecting the artist to the card. And then like it took on this new life force with Sorcery where it was really like, I was super into the art. And then we could talk about a little bit into like the title and the gameplay mechanics, the top-down design. I find super fascinating too, like how great of how really creative, the creative energy of Eric as a designer doing a top-down approach from title to art to type line to game mechanic is really, really special in Sorcery, I think.
Yeah. I mean, I love the game. I would see myself as like gameplay first, but it was the art that drew me in, just like Magic drew me in back then. Even if I think anybody who saw kids playing Magic cards like would want to join in and be like, what is this? Because it's just like you see some of the arts and they're just like so iconic. Like I remember Singer Vampire being real like, what the hell is this game? I was going to Catholic school at the time, so I was like, anything that was black, I was like, that's me. I'm into it. So I'm curious, like I in the other interview, I remember you talking about, you talked to Severine Pignot. Am I pronouncing that correctly? Severine Pignot?
Pinot, yeah.
Pinot, okay.
Yep.
And she is just kind of nonchalant almost in a way about her fantasy art because she does this other art that she felt was like more, I don't know, acceptable, important, whatever. And then she was underselling it apparently, right? She was like, can you tell me a little bit about like that conversation and kind of like how that kind of sparked? It sounded like it sparked in you this idea of like, can I help these artists out in a way?
Yeah, absolutely. Because I knew kind of like the gaming aspect, you know, from my background in gaming with Magic and then other more modern games, really just Hearthstone, really digitally. But then when it came to the art market, it was like, that's a good example. It's Severin. She was. I remember I was talking to her and Brian Smith and a lot of these artists that were not the early alpha MTG artists. Most of them, aside from the Alterists, who were still part of that community, this was their first TCG, right? So they knew nothing about the market. They didn't even do a lot of game art, or some never did like gaming art whatsoever. So they just thought it was kind of like fun and like I don't know. It's not like the same. It wasn't the same to them as their classical traditional art, and displaying it in galleries and selling it through whatever means they were doing so. So I was educating them on the art market. I saw like some of them were selling their paintings for like $400, $500, $600, $800 at peak. And then you look at the Magic art market nowadays, even the modern art, not even like the old classical art, sells substantially higher for thousands of dollars. So we got to talking about that, the market dynamics, and just kind of like what a TCG is like, and why the art and the attachment between the art and the gameplay experiences actually enhances the value of a piece. And if it's a higher rarity piece, that might have more value, or even like a lower rarity, if it's a meta relevant card that gets a lot of play, that then the market will value that higher. So I was able to actually help inform them. They're the experts on the creative and painting technique and whatnot, but they didn't really understand the market. So we kind of just, through the interviews, making these connections, getting to know them, and then naturally talking about how they can better monetize their work since they own the IP in Sorcery, kind of fostered a relationship where I was able to help them in that way. And help also like on the consumer side, because I run auctions, so like in the early days of Sorcery, that was the means of price discovery. Like, how do you price a pre-production, pre-alpha sample card? We didn't know, know, so we ran auctions, and then the open market
figured it out.
Okay. Same thing with the paintings, same thing with artist proofs, alters, everything. Yeah.
I think that, I guess this kind of leads into another one of our topics, because I'm part of the Collector Arthouse Discord, and it does seem like a lot of Sorcery players really do not understand the collecting side at all, and that it's integral to the business. Like with Magic, there are collectors and players and designers, and there's just, everybody fills a role. I remember I did an interview with like a granola-y kind of rapper back in the day. I used to do like interviews for like a newspaper back in the day.
Oh, and interesting.
And this will get somewhere, I promise. But like,
that's interesting.
And at the time, 50 Cent had just come out with an album, and I was like a 20-something kind of like, I'm too good for that type of kid or whatever. Like, I'm into this like conscious rap or whatever the hell that is. It was like, so I asked him about it. Bluntly, he was kind of like, he's like, rap's just like neighborhood. It's just like, it's just like, you're going to have 50 Cent on the corner over here, and I'm helping the old lady across the street, but we all live together, and we have to live together. That's the way the neighborhood goes. And so I kind of think almost as like any TCG or Sorcery in that respect. Like there will be times where like maybe I'm, sad I can't get a card or whatever because it's out of reach. But also I'm like, what I see you doing for artists is getting them paid. And I know the history of a lot of these Magic artists, especially, they did not get paid back in the day for their work. And they kind of did it on hope and a prayer back then. So it's pretty, I don't know, it's awesome, I think. And that's really
thank you.
Guest on the show and let people know about what you do for the community, because these artists deserve it. Like, you meet an Ed Beard or something like that, and it's hard not to like the guy and like want to root for him. It's like, So I don't know what the point about. You're welcome. Because like, I just don't think Sorcery like players sometimes get it.
And like I joke about it a lot in the Discord and stuff, kind of tongue in cheek, because you hear these like absurd things, people slander each other and say all this nonsense.
Physical NFTs was a good one, right? It was like
someone said I sell
whatever
physical
that means.
NFTs. I don't know what that means, but that was hilarious. But like, I mean, I don't have any animosity towards players. I actually think that's fundamentally absurd and ridiculous. Like, I came from a player background myself, and if I had the time, I'd be playing this game. It's just a matter of circumstance that I have young kids. I don't have the time to do that. It's just like a personal life work. I also have a full-time job, and I do all this stuff on the side.
Totally.
So like, I am completely consumed and bogged down, have like no time whatsoever. But I wish I could, so I kind of envy the players having that time to do that. And I think like the infighting between these two segments is just like so absurd. They're not like rival gangs. Like you say, like they're all like critically important to the success of this game. You gotta have the art enthusiasts, the players, the collectors, And yeah, like I can understand like how players need to get access to these cards, right? And they have this like notion that maybe collectors drive up value and price them out of the game and this and that. But I think Sorcery actually strikes a nice balance where they print a lot of the non-foil cards and you can get most of those like reasonably affordably and play the game as you wish, you know?
What I try to tell folks on my channel is like, if I have comments that say like, oh, this is too expensive to get into or whatever, is typically those folks are coming to my channel from Magic because that's what it used to be back in the day, or that's just the biggest game on the block. But I'm like, look at they say like, oh, well, Sorcery is way more expensive than getting into Magic Standard format, for instance. And I'm like, well, Magic Standard format rotates like literally every 2-3 months as a new set comes out. So you're not just buying once and being done like you are kind of with Sorcery. You're having to like rejigger your whole deck like every 3 months. And it winds up being so much more expensive than Sorcery has been. Like I sold Magic collection, like a little bit of my Magic collection, and I've been living on that for like 6 months, just paying for Sorcery out of that fund, basically.
Oh, nice. That's a common story, man. So many people are just turning over whatever Magic or whatever game they were into, and those early cards are worth a lot of money. So I always tell this funny story. I had a guy down in, I think he's in New Zealand or Australia. He was telling me he has like a real nice like old vintage Magic collection, and he was telling me about the Philosopher's Stone. He's like, how much is that foil stone? I know that's the top card, and I was like, this was a few years ago. I was like, it's like a $10,000 card, and he's like, oh, that's not bad. I was like, I might as well. He was like, I might as well get a couple of those. And he's like, to me, like I sell like 3 Magic cards, I'll just get it, no big deal. I was like, wow,
totally.
You guys are on another level, man. That sounds nice.
That's like my friend, my other friend Mike. He's got like he's got a vault kind of where he keeps all of his old alpha beta stuff, and like he was like always talking about like, man, I really want to retire, and I'm like, you have the collection, like you can make it happen, man. You can buy a whole house with that. But I'm putting it towards Sorcery because I don't know. I just, like I said, I'm game player first, and I just wanted to bridge that gap for any new players coming in to really, like value the stuff you do for the community, because there's plenty of stuff that I think is within reach. Like you even dive into altars and stuff now, which I know wasn't always where you were going with things, but now you do a lot of work of like even auctioning off altars and stuff. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So initially it was like you say, primarily the sorcery artists that I had focused on. And then I had this, like, I wanted to take like the creative aspect of the things I was doing with artists to a new level. So I started with the sorcery artists, and we would do fun things like an embellished print. Like I remember we did this concept with the Rel Dromedary and the camel card and the oh man, now I'm going to blank on the card. The Elvira Palakowska card, the big bomb that explodes on the realm.
Doomsday Device.
Doomsday Device, yeah. So like Eric would tell this story in the early days where the camel was just an ordinary, like unassuming camel, right? Has no abilities, is an average little minion, cheap to cast, but he can carry the Doomsday Device and then nuke the realm, right? And detonate it. So like we did this embellished print with Kyle Calazans, the artist, who was actually an altar artist before Sorcery. And he did this these different versions of the Rel Dromedary camel with like his legs blown off or like his top half blown off and just like shrapnel everywhere from the Doomsday Device. So that's kind of how it started. Like I had this like vision of like trying to marry the gameplay experience with the artistic experience, especially in Sorcery where it's so experiential, and try to think about these combos where what if you artistically paint and bring those experiences to life, like in that example scenario. And then I started branching out into altars, and really through the interviews, I got to know Elvira Shakarova, Kyle Calazans, and Marta Molina, who are very well-known Magic the Gathering altarists who had crossed over into Sorcery. Eric discovered them in the altar scene. So I wanted to do the same thing. And like you were saying earlier, where like Magic Alpha was very diverse artistically, Sorcery is like that too. So I actually looked for artists that maybe were not particularly fitting for Sorcery, just to kind of expand the exposure to the Sorcery audience who already appreciates artwork, and say like, how about Andrina Jardim, who has like a very different style, and some of her stuff does seem very fitting, some of it does not, right? It's like just different. It expands your zone, or maybe in a future thematic set it might. But Dustin Broussard, resonates closely. But like all the different altarists that I identify to try to work with, I try to get like a different artist stylistically, similarly to how Sorcery did, because I find that to be very fun and interesting. And what last thing on this point, with the 1 year set release, I love the idea that there's an auction every single day where you can discover new artwork. You know, we don't have to wait a full year for the spoiler season in Sorcery. We can see new art from all these amazing artists on artist proofs and altars every single day of the week. And I find that tremendously exciting and fun.
Yeah, that's an awesome point, actually. There's a lot of room for that. And that's a credit, I think, to Sorcery's philosophy of how they want to release stuff. Give people enough time to really enjoy and kind of engage fully with the set and the art. And then, yeah, there's plenty of room for creators on the outside to like make play mats or like, you know, just sell their wares or whatever. Which is awesome. Yeah, I feel literally like stress level for me from coming to Magic to Sorcery has dropped to like 10 to like 3.
Yeah, and because like in Magic, when they were coming out quarterly, like as a kid, like I was like doing chores in my house, cleaning the bathrooms, like vacuuming the house for like some scrap money to go buy a few packs of Revised. I never bought a booster box until my like adult life, middle life. You know, I was buying it by the pack as a kid, or the starter decks, which are randomized in Magic, so it's different. But to have the point was like the quarterly release, it was taxing both financially. But also, if you missed, like, say you got busy for 6 months, or you just couldn't buy, you were financially strapped and you couldn't buy into a set. Now you're behind on the meta, and you don't have the cards. And there might have been new mechanics introduced, new cards, new synergies. Hearthstone is actually really similar too. I was getting kind of like addicted to that playing when my kids were young. While it was like they were, I was doing a night shift and giving them the bottle, playing like a couple hours of Hearthstone, repeat all day long. And then like if I got away from it for like 6 months, all of a sudden there'd be all these new set releases, all these new cards, and I'd have to grind to get the dust to buy the cards, and you fall out of the meta, and then there's that pressure. It's like it creates a barrier of entry where like you throw up your arms and you're like, it's gonna be too complicated just figuring out how to like be viable at all. Whether you want to play competitively or not, you at least want to have a chance to win and have some fun experiences and not get blown out, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it almost sounds like this is just a problem that Sorcery is trying to avoid from a lot of different card games. And I think some people think to themselves, like, oh, am I going to be bored? And sometimes, I guess there's lulls, like especially for content creator people. They're looking at like, what am I going to talk about now? But at the same time, that's a good problem to have, I think, because coming from Magic World, now it's 7 sets a year. Now it's plus 200 products or whatever they release just supplementally. So good luck, like even knowing what any of the cards are. Crazy. I'm curious because there's a couple big things coming up, and I noticed you posted something. I don't know if this was for yesterday. It said like 7/27/26 at 5 p.m. Some announcement. Was that for today or was that yesterday?
It's funny because I got the date wrong, and like Ed Bear Jr. messaged me. He was like, "Mike, what's with this date?" He's like, today's the 26th, or did I post it on the 25th saying the 26th?
Yeah,
it was something like that. I was off by a day, and I was like, well, we're gonna get people fired up and riled up, not knowing what's coming. But I mean, I have like 10 social media platforms, I think, at this point, like multiple Facebook groups, Discords, website, YouTube, Instagram, everything. And I try to like actively engage to create engagement with the community. And like I don't have a lot of time for like YouTube. I can't sit down and record videos like you do every day because I'm busy. I have a day job, and then I'm busy like with the auctions, with like talking with artists. We create things, we're doing playmat designs. Like there's always something, right? And then like I started the Facebook group, the Facebook community group, and it was like February 7th, 2022. So it's 4.5 years ago. And literally every single day since that group was created, I post actively, I pose questions to the audience, I share art or stories about the game's history. So I've been like super like, that's like my YouTube, right? Like I really put my all into that. And my Discord, there's like 2,000 in Discord, almost 7,000 and Facebook, and that's because of the labor of love of trying to nurture that inclusive environment and welcome people in and make it interesting. Otherwise it dies. I've had Facebook groups that I've seen and had Facebook groups that just kind of fizzle out, and you can't get anyone to look at anything or post or engage at all. So you really got to be all in on it. I guess point being, there's always something, but I slipped up on that announcement. That was kind of funny. I did launch my shop page on it, like, because I was selling playmats through the Patreon, but I
Okay.
finally got a shop page. I'm not like super good with web design just yet still. So I have this guy, Agent Paco, in the Discord you've probably seen, really helps me out with the website.
I have seen that.
We finally got that
It's
up.
funny you say you're not good with web design. I'm like, you started a website though, regardless, right? It was just
it was like
sheer
blog
force of
style.
will.
It was just the interviews, and then I curated all the full art images and like the card library and like my research on these behind the art articles. I would like reach out to the artists and I would say, all right, what's the art direction from Eric? How did you come up with the concept? Do you have the concept sketches? We'd work through all that and I'd write up like a little article about it. And actually, Eric really liked the article. I know you came after the Kickstarter, but he actually included my website, collectorarthouse.com, in the Kickstarter campaign.
I actually noticed that. I saw the link to it.
Yeah. So I was tremendously honored and thankful and appreciative that he did that in those early days. It just shows you like the vibe was really great. Like everyone was super close. It was cool. And now the game grows and these factions form and these cliques and all this stuff.
I was going to say, like, saying the vibe was great hints that there was like, now there's been a change, let's say.
It still really is a great community, but like things do get a little cliquish, competitive, people drift into these other Discords and other Facebook groups and other websites. Like people start cloning content and ideas and stuff. But ultimately, Sorcery does have a great vibe. Yeah.
And I think that's like maybe important to remember too, is like, boy, I'm just comparison and contrast for me. Like Magic World, literally every day was some earth-shaking controversy. And I think that's why like Sorcery keeps getting these spikes. It's like you can just look over at Magic and be like, oh, they hired the Pinkertons to go shake down a content creator. I got it. Now people are mad. So like they're coming over here to see where the water is. You've got some big things coming up from my perspective, but I bet I'm forgetting some things too. I'll lead off with this. Right now, I guess you are helping Juan Machuca, who's a new artist with Sorcery, like brand new, right? Like
Gothic was his first set. Yep.
Okay, and so like he has created this play mat. I just picked up a copy of mine today, or copy. I picked up a mat. And I'm super excited about it. Can you tell us a little bit about what makes this mat different or special? And I'll leave links in the description below and stuff like that for people.
Yeah, thank you. So initially it was like, the neoprene mats, and like I was doing some great things with that with a few of the artists for Sorcery. I'm one of the tournament organizers for Sorcery Con.
Okay.
So I handle all the art aspects of that. So we've had art, sorcery artwork designed for playmats on your conventional neoprene playmats, but I also did that with Severin Pinel. I have several of playmats with her, like the Philosopher's Stone. Some of her really iconic artworks that people like, and Keith Era Mechanism. So those are neoprene, which is like the rubber back for people that don't know. That's typically like all playmats are like that. So I wanted to do a cloth playmat to the old scroll-like playmats that they had in Magic back in the day. And you had these guys up in Canada, the Assorted Animals actually did one, which was really cool too for their local scene. So that got me thinking, like, the neoprene is really a pain. And in Sorcery, like everybody wants the 2-player mats. Those are like really awesome, really cool, great to have on your desk at home or your kitchen table or wherever you play at the LGS. But when you go to an event or you go to the LGS, it's a real pain dragging that big, like massive rolled playmat, or at best you could fold it in half. But with these cloth playmats, you can literally fold it like 8 times, like really, like probably like the size of a book. I actually made this funny meme video where I put it in my pocket. You can actually put it into your pocket, and then it's super lightweight, it's foldable, and then it just lays right out, and you could travel with it with anything. So I reached out to. It's really hard to source the materials for that. It can be really expensive because like a lot of these major manufacturers want you to order quantities of 500 or 1,000. And Sorcery is small. It's hard to sell 500 to 1,000 mats. You might sell like 100 or so, like on a nice design. It's really hit or miss. And there's so much art. Everybody has their own tastes. So I collaborated with this store called Curio Cavern. It's called Curio Cavern, coincidentally.
Perfect. Right.
Yeah, it predated Sorcery, so the curio aspect had no affiliation. But there's this great guy down in, I'm in Northern Virginia, and I discovered his store years ago. I bought some boxes of Flesh and Blood from him, just kind of speculating because I thought that was like the next Magic kind of interesting thing years ago. And I got to know the owner because the person who's done all the framing on most of the artwork except the one I bought pre-framed. I did all that framing with this shop down in Springfield, Virginia, and the Curio Cavern LGS was right across the street. So I reached out to the guy, I figured out who it was. I knew some of the employees like from the community. They're like, "Hey, I work at Curio Cavern." I was like, I live like an hour from there, and my framer's there. So I went to his store and I brought the I had the Avatar of Fire at the time, I think it was, and the ring. I think the ring, it might have, I don't know if it was released yet. I bought that painting before we knew what it was, and it was before I knew it was such
that's a lucky buy.
Yeah, I just got lucky. I thought it was like really cool. I mean,
it's a beautiful ring. If you could see it up close, it's got a lot of detail. It's really sweet.
I like items and relics and jewelry. I always like the antiquities or like the the relic type things in Sorcery. And I played Diablo 2 and really like that kind of thing.
Me too. I spent a lot of hours on that one.
Yeah, hell yeah. And Keith Era Mechanism. So I brought those into his shop and I showed his players as he was doing a Learn to Play years ago. So anyway, I collaborated with him. He sourced the cloth mat and we're selling it through CurioCavern.com. Usually I sell it through my Patreon or my Collector Arthouse site, but this will be through Curio Cavern because one of the things I want to do is collaborate with stores too. I always had a vision of like, how can I collaborate with tournament organizers and stores and leverage these artist connections to give them play mats as prize support or whatever the case may be, give them like nice products to help them be viable as a store. So that's how that connection was made.
I mean, that's awesome, man. So I'll leave the link in the description below for people that want to participate with that. I think it's going to be going on until, do you have an end date for it or anything? Or
yeah, we're doing 2 weeks and we launched it. Was it Friday night? I'm losing track of time now. It'll end either August 7th or 8th. It'll say on the website.
Okay.
Yep.
Because you're right. Weeks. Like the giant 2-player sorcery mats are really, they're way bigger than a regular play mat. And so it is kind of hard to lug them around. I love them, but yeah, they're the neoprene stuff. It kind of smells funny sometimes as well. So like
it does. When they deliver like 1,000 of them to your doorstep, it like rigs up the whole house, But yeah, like usually I do a pre-order because of these minimum order quantities. I got to kind of like assess the risk. If I got to take a large quantity, I want to at least try to break even or like not take too much of a loss. It's nice to have some residual inventory, but basically I'm trying to get into more merchandising because I'm trying to help the artists be viable. Some of these artists like Sorcery is their only job. They went all in. Like Juan quit his job and he's all in on Sorcery. So I'm trying to help them sell playmats and we're doing some other, I guess I'll do a spoiler of the other thing. He's sending me some Gothic boxes.
Okay.
Like we took altars to a new level where he altered the inner lid of the Gothic box.
Sweet.
Because a lot of people store their card in those.
I do that as well.
Yeah. So you open the lid and then he's got like an altar painted onto the box. It looks really awesome. So we're trying to get creative so they can earn some income between the annual releases. And sometimes they're not in every set. So they got to sell playmats and prints and their originals, all kinds of things. So I'm trying to get more into that. It's just it's tough working with like an indie niche game where the market's only so big,
So what keeps you going whenever things are like maybe not selling or whatever? Like what keeps you driving? Because you're doing the full-time job. You got 3 kiddos and a wife who imagines like, what the hell's happening in this room?
She's been patient but frustrated at times. Yeah, she's like, you got to drop this thing. Like, it's ridiculous. But I was like, it's helping,
But you're like seeing like a ton of success in this at the same time. So I'd hate for you to have to drop it,
I know. She understands. She just gets stressed with the kids sometimes. But
for sure.
Yeah, right. I mean, one thing that's motivated me, honestly, is like I think I'm really helping the artists and the community. I mean, like the community group, I don't monetize that, or like the website. I just put a shop page up there after having the website for like 5 years. It's going to be 5 years in October since I built that website. Never sold a thing on it. So it's purely a labor of love of content type thing. But really, it was like I feel an obligation to the artists to try to help them as best I can. There was actually a time a few years back where they were looking for a community manager before they brought Chase on, where I was talking with the company and they asked me if that was something I might be interested in because they liked what I was doing with the website, with the Facebook group and all this stuff. And, it was a tough decision. I do have a full-time job and kids. So, it had to be a real offer. But at the same time, they also said it would have been a conflict of interest if I continued to do the stuff with their artists, obviously. Right.
Oh, wow.
So I would have had to give that up. And really that was like a major deciding, like I'd love to work with Eric. I think he's a creative genius and I absolutely adore this project and what he's doing with it and stuff. It would have been a dream, honestly, but it's also a dream to work with these artists. And I think I'm actually making a difference, really helping them. So I'm super passionate about that and loyal to them in that sense. And then I think it's also great for the community too, because they have a means to get beautiful art in a secure, reliable way. Where sometimes the artists are busy, they'll take like some of the artists will take like a backlog of commission for years and stuff. Like my approach is different. I got to have the thing in hand so I could showcase it. So people know when the auction ends, they get it immediately. There's no wait list. There's nothing like that. So it's a different kind of approach that I think really helps everybody.
Yeah. I can't see any downfalls in it other than the fact that you're stretched like to the very like thinnest line. Cause like, you're right. Like the amount of time you spend on Discord and Facebook groups and doing auctions and you're doing live videos in addition to all the other stuff is honestly kind of mind blowing. And I was like after watching the Australian interview, I noticed you talked about Z's, this old bodybuilder. And
he actually has this slogan, the Veni Vidi Vici. That's like a nice Z's reference. It's kind of funny.
Is that where the Strokes got the name of that album from? Was like being Z's fans?
I don't know. I know it's like a real saying, like in like Greek mythology or something.
I figured.
but like, he's kind of like he's a guy who passed away young. He was kind of like an over the top YouTuber guy, like into the aesthetic scene. Like I've always been into like, I don't want to say bodybuilding, like not on that level, but like lifting since I moved to Philadelphia area. So like, I've got to kind of reinvent myself. I guess I'll start working out. I lost all my childhood friends. What the hell am I going to do?
Sure.
So I started.
These weights are my friends.
So I really started getting into lifting and stuff seriously, and always have been kind of like into doing athletic things and working out every day and stuff. So that's also another thing that's on my plate. I wake up at like 5 o'clock every day and work out in my basement and then get it going.
Well, I think probably what starting something like that so young and being consistent with it teaches you ways to get all these things done, even if some people may feel like they don't have enough time in the day. But if you really map it out, you kind of look at like, well, I doom scrolled for like 2 hours. I mean, that could have been like a ton of stuff being done that, whatever your thing is, right?
Yep.
And so I'm trying to take that into my own life now too, with this channel, and just be consistent, pump things out, like be positive in the community, and like just have no room unless I'm making fun of them in a video, like have no room for haters that are just kind of like just talking smack. I just want to be around people who are positive in this community. It's pretty easy in Sorcery World, to be honest. There's a few pockets, but for the most part, people are active and doing stuff.
It's like anything, as you grow and have success, you draw more hate, and like with petty people or just, it's tough, man. As you grow and you grow an audience, you'll get hate from certain people that just won't like you for whatever reason, or they'll make. I really hated like when people would like make up percentage commissions I'm getting from artists, or say I'm grifting or I'm shilling and I'm just like in it for myself and pumping. And some people say I'd be pumping and dumping, which I found hilarious because I own like a ton of paintings and old historic early development cards and stuff like that. And like, I've sold almost nothing since the beginning of Sorcery of my own, So like, I don't pump and dump. I don't dump anything. Like I have the heaviest bags around in some cases, in a sense, right? But I don't know, just things people say, it can be frustrating because like we're just like regular guys that we're super passionate about this game or art or gameplay or whatever the case may be. So we did something that was self-fulfilling and helped others, and you grew the scene, you helped the game, you helped the community, you helped the artists. So you're really doing it out of like from a genuine, pure sense. And then people are talking smack on you, like it can be aggravating and stressful, but so I like come across a little like, here's the thing. I'm from upstate New York, so I already have like a cynical sense of humor as it is. And like, my dad would bust my chops and my uncle, and like, that's an upstate New York thing. Friends would bust each other's chops. And then you move to like the West Coast or a different part of the country, and people are like, whoa, that's weird. Like,
they
why
know
would
how
you
to
say
take
something
it
like that?
Yeah.
So sometimes people like jump in my Discord and see me say something like completely joking, and I'll be like, wow, this guy's like an animal. Like out of context, right?
And I guess that like there's you're totally right. Depends on where people come from. If they've never experienced like, just like that type of humor and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I wonder, like, do you think it's like the Italian background, or is it like, I don't know,
Maybe some of that too. Yeah.
I asked because here's the craziest thing in the world. I grew up in rural Louisiana, middle of nowhere, 2,000 people or whatever. But
Wow.
a long time ago, a ton of Italian immigrants came from New York to settle in this place called Independence, Louisiana. And every year they got a Sicilian Heritage Festival and an Italian festival. And like literally my doctor was Dr. Anzalone. My neighbors were the Letos. My good friend growing up was a Lupo. You know, it's like I grew up around like this environment, just like eating Italian soup and sandwiches. I almost feel like at home in that world of just like there was a cultural aspect of just like taking the piss out of people, or just, you know, like kind of like being funny and talking a little smack and like
if you're part of that culture, you see the humor in it, you think it's funny. If someone like says something to you like off color, you know that if you know they're joking, then you think it's hilarious. But some people just don't understand it at all and get really bent out of shape. But yeah, there's also a thing with Italians, like respect too. Like I don't like create beefs with people. Like it seems like I have a beef with everybody sometimes, or like they have a beef with me. And I'm like, look, if you just treat me with respect, I will treat you with respect, and we'll like be great friends, you know? Like there's no need for this petty drama. I hate that crap actually. So sometimes like I'll reach out and be like, dude, what's the deal? Like why? And it'll say like, oh, you know, like you come across as this and that, or I thought this about you. Like one guy actually emailed me recently and he was like, this was like completely out of the blue. It was a guy like that was like harassing me in some of the Discords and stuff, or like doing the toxic emojis and stuff with the clown face. Certain Discords, I'd go in there, I couldn't say anything without getting like harassed. And then so he emails me and he's like, hey, you know, like I know that our differences and I had this like certain perception of you and I was wrong. I apologize. I do see like you do a lot of good for the community and stuff. And that's nice to see, like once in a blue moon, where people like realize, because like it's always like whenever I have like a beef with somebody, they're like, it's you, Mike. It's not me, it's you. Like, really? Well, okay, let's talk about it. Like I didn't realize, maybe you misunderstood like something I said, or I was like joking around and you know, you didn't realize I wasn't being serious. That can happen, certainly.
And I think a lot of it too comes down from just like if folks can get perspective too, because like I don't think there's anybody that fulfills your role in the sorcery community in the magic community. Like I don't know of another person that's like an equivalent who like helps to set up magic auctions and artists and like, so I don't think people really understand, one, how much work it is, two, like how much of a real benefit it is to the people who I would say, like, I think Eric's design is incredible, but I almost like 51-49 kind of put the art as like the biggest factor that pulls a new person in. Like the art is just otherworldly, in my opinion, at least. I had somebody in my comments be like, that looks like 60s art, sucks. But I was like, I don't even know what you mean by that. But
those are extreme outliers. Yeah, most people are enthralled with the art, and then it attracts them, pulls them in to discover the game. And the game design is brilliant as well with the grid-based.
And that keeps people there, I think. The game design just kind of like, for me, it's, it's incredible. So we've got a big thing coming up. And I say we because I will be there. Sorcery Con 4. I don't know if there's any new news popping. I was hoping for like this new announcement you posted yesterday or 2 days ago. I was like, oh, we're going to hear about more artists or something. But that's okay.
Well, yeah, who knows with your audience if they've been following like some of the socials. We did have kind of like a strategic pause. Like we plan Sorcery Con. I'm one of 5 core Sorcery Con organizers. So a lot of people know Alex. He was one of the founders. This other guy, David, and Alex were kind of like the first 2 guys that started it. And then there's this guy, Carter, who is like very experienced in the tournament organization scene. He's done a lot of magic events. So he's very knowledgeable on like everything that goes into organizing an event. So he's invaluable. So Alex, Carter, Chantel, who started, I think, with the Vegas event, was the first one she came on board with. And then so she met like Alex along the way. This guy Paparazzi in the Discord does all our audio visual stuff, which is really important, you know, to get the mics right, and get the lighting right and everything. And then myself, I was pulled in by I don't know if you know Drew Holmes. He's a guy that now works for Eric. So he now works for Eric's Curiosa, And what happened was Alex and David were working with Drew. They were kind of like the core three impetus of sorcery on the path to Las Vegas. And then along the way, Eric's Curiosa. Drew held a great event down in Texas where he lives called March of the Mortals. And he did this real impressive production where he did this kind of like weatherman type thing. It was funny. I would call him the weatherman because he was standing up there and he was like standing in front of this screen that was projecting the gameplay. And it was like, and Eric's Curiosa, if you don't know, being as you're new or your audience may not know, Eric hired a lot of guys out of Discord or out of the community that had certain talents that filled gaps in his company. So he needed someone to help with tournament organizing. He saw the talent in Drew and he hired him to, and I'm sure Drew is like probably the lead guy organizing Avatar of the Realm. So he pulled me in knowing that I had the artist connections, that we wanted to bring like an artistic experience element to sorcery. So in the planning to Las Vegas, I came on board on the team and helped bring, I think we had like 12 artists at Las Vegas. And now for Sorcery Con, I've got like 20 sorcery artists lined up and about like 5 Alterists or so. And we expect to have some, maybe a Gen Con coming up this week as the time of this recording, new artist reveals. So as that happens, I'm inviting them. We might have over 20 sorcery artists at this event, which is freaking insane and a dream come true to meet these people.
Yeah, I don't know if I've ever been to an event that's had that many artists besides like Gen Con, which has got its own giant row.
Can you imagine like an indie TCG that has a few hundred, like Vegas had 400 and change attendees. Indy was a little smaller because it was shorter notice on the timing, but we have a venue that can seat like 1,000 people. So we have the capacity. We wanted to go big, and we did Vegas first to make like a splash on a big, sexy venue where they have like major Magic Pro Tours and everything, right? But now we're trying to get around the country to pull in more people that maybe couldn't fly to the West Coast or couldn't go to Indy or whatever. More dry. There's a big player base in the Northeast, so we figured Philadelphia. It's at Valley Forge Casino Resort, big venue. Because like my fear was the artists do tremendously well at Sorcery Con. And I would feel awful if I had to get into this like selection process where I have to turn artists away. That would be like a nightmare for me. I'd be like, I can't do this because I'm very close to so many artists, and I don't want to tell any of them like, no,
you don't want to pick and choose your
we're at capacity.
Yeah,
the best I could do is like first come first serve, right? Or like I'm not gonna like say like, oh, you're a bigger name than this one, or you just came into the game and this one's been here since alpha. I don't want to play those games, so I was like, we got to get a big venue, no limits. The sorcery fans spend a lot of money, so they'll support you. Don't worry, you make a lot of money in just signatures alone. So we went big, and I'm trying to encourage everyone to come, and they're coming from all over the world, fans and artists alike. And it's like a unique experience, unlike any other sorcery event or even a Magic event, in my opinion. Because like you say, you can't get that. You go to Gen Con, get a handful of artists for this game, handful for that game, but 20 sorcery artists. Few years into the game, 3 years into the game, that's insane.
Yeah, I'm super excited about it. It's going to be an uncomfortable, like 5 people squeezing into some kind of vehicle with all their luggage road trip for us, but it's going to be great. At the same time, it's going to be uncomfortable. It's going to be great and like kind of just hilarious. But yeah, we're bringing up the whole crew, and I'm really looking forward to it. Just straight from the get-go, I didn't even really think about any other events or anything. I was just like, I missed going to Magic GPs, I think. And Magic GPs were where I would get to talk to the artists after I'd scrub out. And like, I enjoyed like every once in a while you compete a little bit, then you have a little side event. And like the fact that this is at this Valley Forge casino, like maybe go have some fun, like lose some money, whatever it might be.
And like people should know too that like no matter what your interest category is or personality, like I was actually like very introverted as a kid. I was probably like, I got to talk to you about it because you're a counselor. It's probably the trauma of moving like halfway through freshman year.
Well, that's immediately what I thought of.
people don't leave Rochester, New York. They're lifers over there. So like I was super close. There's a lot of kids in my neighborhood. Like I thought these are going to be my best friends for life. Some of them I still keep in touch with because I have family up there, so as people get older and pass away and stuff, I'll go back. I'll look up my friends. We'll get together. Thanks to Facebook, we reconnected. I know people hate Facebook, but like it really
it's good for that.
It helped me reconnect with family and friends and stuff. So my point is like, no matter what type of personality you are, you will fit in and have a great time at Sorcery Con. That's something that's really personally important to myself. I try to make it very inclusive. Like I had good intent to like do a learn to play with the artist at the last Sorcery Con. I don't play in the event because I can't even like imagine sitting down at a table for like a half hour, an hour, and the opportunity cost of all the other things I got to do. Because I work the room, I walk around, I make sure the artists have a good time, a good experience. I try to talk to as many people as I possibly can. People know me from YouTube or Facebook or whatever, so people are always coming up to me, and I try to, I don't know their real names most of the time because they're Discord people. Yeah. So I always got to tell them. They'll come to me like I've known them my whole life, and be like, "Oh, Mike, yeah, how you doing, man?" Like, and I might have seen them at a prior event, and I'm like, "Oh, yeah," like, but I have no idea what their name is, and I feel awful.
Yeah.
But everyone, even like the most quietest introverted person, you just pull up a table. We have a lot of capacity. You can pull up a side table, play with people that you came with, jump into a learn to play, and the artists are like super nice and approachable. I would go to some of these art shows where it'd be like a different vibe, and I'd be like, man, what? I'm not like an artist. Like, what am I going to say to these people? Like, oh, I love your stuff. Like it feels awkward. You can say anything to a sorcery artist. They are just tickled, thrilled to talk to you, like thrilled that you appreciate their work, curious about the game just like you are. It's really like a positive scene. It's really fun.
Let me ask, any artists that you haven't seen on a sorcery card yet that you would like to see? Any, like, I don't know if you have any in your back pocket that's like, it's a tough question.
I won't show bias towards my the alterists that I work with. I want them all to get commissioned for sorcery. Atlas Thorn. Have you seen Atlas Thorn's work?
No, but I will post some pictures up in the show as we're
okay, because he's not like a core set artist, but he had the three there's like these tower card promos. Okay. So you have to look them up. Eric's gonna give away the original paintings at Avatar of the Realm that Atlas Thorn did. So he's an altarist that I work with. And like part of my whole vision for this is like I'm trying to create opportunities. That's why I got into altars, like we were talking about earlier. I also, just like I wanted to help the sorcery artists, whether they're new to sorcery or just undervaluing their work, whatever the case may be, or some just need the help and don't want to deal with the business aspect. They just want to be creative and paint and not deal with haggling and like telling people no if they're trying to lowball and be opportunistic or whatever. But with these alterists, like I wanted to leverage my platforms. I realized like my Facebook group got really big, so I could showcase the work of alterists. And whether you want to buy their work or not, it's still great exposure. And Eric's in the group and other Eric's Curios employees, creators of other games. It's just a networking effect where just the visibility of their work really helps them. So anyway, Atlas was like an altarist that I work with that got commissioned, and Eric saw his stuff and thought it could work. So I hope that happens with more. But in terms of like other artists, here's one that won't show bias because it won't be a living artist. Okay. So like I won't, no one can feel bad about this. But Keith Parkinson was one of the creators of Guardian CCG, and he was like the artistic director essentially of that. With Luke Peter Schmidt was the game designer. Basically, the two of them launched this game, and I know Eric's a fan of him. He's a fan of Guardians, certainly. And I really, really thought that Eric would have licensed some of his work like he did with Gerald Brom, like he did with Frank Frazetta. Obviously that's passed, but the Frazetta estate, just like, so reach out to Donna Parkinson, who's, Keith's wife, who owns his artwork and the rights to it, and to license some of his work. I thought it was going to be a curio in a set, like the Brom card. It's funny. The new people don't know that that's like the big iconic alpha card, that Brom piece up there. Yeah. That's the original painting for it. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. So if you commission like a Keith Parkinson, it can have like another big splash effect like that, where like you're exposing people to like, oh, what's Guardian CCG? Who are these artists from the 80s and 90s era? And it's more discovery, more appreciation for art, more attachment to sorcery. I think it's like a win-win for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So, well, we're coming up close on an hour. I want to keep it nice and tight for folks, but I really enjoyed talking with you so far. It's like you said, I think earlier in a message, it was like it's going to fly by the hour. It does. But I want to respect your time too, because obviously we just talked about for 20 minutes how freaking busy you are all the time.
Yeah, it's fun now. It's all fun.
Yeah, it is fun, right? If you're working towards something you love, it does get a lot easier. I won't say it's perfect, but it does get a lot easier.
Yeah, certainly.
So any last things that you feel like you want to put out there? You want to let people know, again, remind them just like where they can find your stuff? I don't know, something that's important to you, a project you're working on, this is your space to.
I mean, it's pretty simple to find my stuff. I have a link tree. If you Google Linktree Collector Arthouse, you could find all my social media platforms. I have marketplaces and community type places, website, YouTube, everything. So just go there. But yeah, I mean, I wish I could do more content, because like one thing we didn't touch on is, since I was an early adopter of this game, I'm really fascinated by the design evolution, because I have special insight into that as I was conversing with Eric in the early days, not like one-on-one. I mean, to some extent in DMs and stuff, but even out in the open in Discord, we would like have conversational things, like me and other people that were interested in this game. So we learned a lot. And, you know, like I like, I have a kind of like a design it. I started in architecture, and I couldn't cut it the first year is like a weed out process where it's all drawing and stuff. And I didn't have the artistic chops to do it. I was good at math and science, so I got into engineering coincidentally.
Is that your job? Your new job nowadays? Okay.
Yeah, whatever. Something that would pay the bills, that I could have a reliable career when I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I work in the engineering field in my day job, but I have like kind of a creative spirit about me in a way, from the architectural thing and being fascinated with design and then dovetailing into art. So I've always respected and admired artists who are skilled craftsmen that really, and like, I think some of that comes from the bodybuilding lifestyle too. If you're dedicated to something, you put in the reps, you work hard. That's what an artist is, you know, in an artistic capacity. Some of them had some natural innate ability, but like someone like Kyle Calazans has no formal academic training whatsoever. He just grinded away painting until he became absolutely amazing at it. And I absolutely love people like that, passionate people that are dedicated. And I don't know, I'm going on a rambly tangent because I wanted to talk about the game history, and that's something I do on my
That's forums. Something that you're kind of missing out on, that you feel like you could offer a lot, but you just like, where am I going to put it in this schedule of mine?
I do it in my like 2 to 3 hour live streams. Like I've
seen
out some development cards, or like I'll be cracking a pack and I'll be like, oh, well, I talked to this artist, and that's how this that's how this artwork came to be, or here's an early playtest version of this card, and look how much the design changed. So I think that's really cool with a new game, and I think that's really what cements the aspects of nostalgia, because we learn about those early days, we grow with the game, we help it grow. So I want to give a shout out to yourself, being new to the community. I think you're doing great. You're growing fast yourself. You should come on my channel sometime. We'll interview you and hear your story.
Yeah, man.
But yeah, thanks to all the content creators that are helping grow it. Eric's Curiosas, you know, I think they're very unconventional, so they get a lot of spears. I think what they're doing is brilliant, and it's the right decision 99% of the time. I think the 1% that kills them and gets us all frustrated is communicating why they do it, you know, or like, we don't know what's coming, and then we don't know the rationale behind the decisions. But like with this, I know we're got to close here, but I got to talk about the dust promos.
Okay.
Dust exclusive promos. So everyone is complaining about these promos. They're all up in arms. They're frustrated. If you go back and watch all of the interviews, this is what I do. I go back and watch all the interviews with Eric, like a weirdo stalker, and because like he doesn't communicate. He's a behind the scenes guy.
There's very limited stuff out there.
Yeah, and he's like pretty quiet when he does interviews. So you got to really like cling to every word and understand like his motives to do certain things, and then it calms you down, and you're like, oh, okay, this is why he did that, and this is how he sees the value prop. And I think like he always talked about the dust store. When you have a set that releases 1 year in between, you got to have a mechanism. You can't just go like, it's not a digital game. You can't like change the card mechanic and design. You can't touch the meta for a full year. That's very tricky. So this dust store idea is very smart to introduce cards that can affect the game. And I know there's like, so I don't think he deliberately is trying to keep those cards from anybody. I know this is like, Europe's a unique case. I understand it's very difficult to earn the dust in Europe. There's not enough play opportunities. There's not enough access to product to earn dust. So that's a unique case. Just looking at the U.S. market, and I think they want to solve that. They just haven't yet. So they're not going to hamstring the entire project and the U.S. market because Europe's not ready. I think they were super ambitious going international out of the gate, and that's just a matter of circumstance, and now they have to live with that until it gets course corrected. But in the U.S., I think the spirit of what they're doing with those dust promos is spot on to alter the gameplay. It's really rooted in communication, really, really saying like, this is why we're doing this. We're trying to address something that's going on with certain deck archetypes, or we want to mix it up, Or they want to have a publicity event perhaps and say like the dust store is very critical to our strategic aspect of being able to introduce cards that are going to affect the gameplay throughout the year. And we have a problem as an early company where people don't know what the dust store is. They don't know there's barcodes on our boxes.
Sure.
They don't know there's a website where you can cash those in. They don't know there's dust promos because we're not out there marketing like a corporation 24/7. So here every single YouTuber is talking about it, right?
That's
so
true.
Although there's some hardship and pain, now everybody knows a dust store exists. Sometimes you got to take the lumps and people get over it in time and you bite the bullet for that strategic value.
I think there's an element to it of, it seems like, and I don't know Eric at all, but it seems like he's the type of guy who is willing to just be idealistic and push something out before it's fully tested. He's just kind of like, let's see what happens.
He'll take risks. Yeah.
Take risks. Yeah, totally. And so I think so long as, and it sounds like they've done this, but I think the hard part is like, we don't really know what the supply is. So as players, all the players are like chomping at the bit. They're like, am I going to be able to get enough dust to get these things? You know? So there's that.
Well, here's another problem with the communications. Like, so Chase, I believe, like their community manager said in the Discord that these will be plentiful. So like sometimes things are said like in certain forums, like the Discord, or it might have been in an article that people missed. There's a problem communicating to the masses and getting consistency of messaging out to everybody. That's part of like a new business. It's not really his fault, I don't think. I think they're trying to figure out the best comms channels and how to spread the word. But if people aren't universally hearing the same thing from the same person, one consistent voice, they had another guy, Simon, before your time, who was really articulating good at this, of communicating in a very deliberate way. That is critical, doing it deliberately and broadly. So it gets the reach and the messaging is clear. There's always some fuzz on it. Like, is this really dust store exclusive, or is there going to be a mechanical equivalent in the next set? And is there a next set? And like all this stuff, right? And then people start making those inferences or bastardizing the message and plugging the gaps with their own narrative, and then it just snowballs and everybody gets all up in arms. So that's why you got to control the communications, and that's a very difficult thing to do as a small company.
Yeah, and I don't know if that glitch where they kind of went up on the judge store or the promo store like a day early and
that didn't
got torn down. I don't think that helped things either. It's kind of like, oh, that's starting the frenzy right there. They're like, they sold out immediately. Yeah, the narrative's hard to control and speed of the internet, man. It's like if you're not right on top of it somehow.
If you're getting into Sorcery, you're signing up for a roller coaster because it's a game of like it's a company of like 15 people, maybe 10 to 15. They're somewhere in that range now. So they're very overburdened. They're very busy. They're learning on the job in a lot of ways. It's new for a lot of them. So they're growing. And I mean, fundamentally, you gotta love the art and or the gameplay. And if you believe in like the creative vision of the project, creative is both gameplay, game design, and art. Just keep your mind focused on that when you get frustrated, and remind yourself, take a breath and say like, the communications aren't perfect. I don't always have access to certain things when I want them. However, it's freaking like really fun to play, and the people around the game are great. And you know, nothing in life is perfect, right? Remind yourself. And people are not perfect. And this company is run by people who are imperfect.
Shocker. Yeah.
So,
awesome. Well, thank you so much, man, for your time.
Thank you.
We didn't get into Italian sandwiches or Bills football or whether or not that was a catch or not. But anyway,
next time.
Next time, for sure. There's plenty of time. So I think to wrap things up, for my audience, if you haven't seen Collector Arthouse stuff, please go check it out. Honestly, just like there's such a wealth of information. Like I said, even if it's live videos that you can click back on, you can like learn a lot about the early history, where the cores were, when the designs were different side or different shapes, I guess, when they were upright versus like the atlases now being sideways. There's so many little tidbits that you've picked up over the years of just being so fully invested in this. So thank you for all you do, man.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate the invite. It was a pleasure talking to you, and we definitely got to do it again, man. I can't wait to see you at Sorcery Con. Hope everybody else comes out. And I love meeting people. So please come up and say hello to myself and Sean at events so we can connect and talk on the
Hell yeah.
Discord.
I'm gonna be wearing it. I'm gonna make a T-shirt at some point that's like this is rule 0. Just clear. I thought about getting all my crew to like come up with like some kind of jerseys or something, like the rule 0 crew or something. Just so
everyone's going to know you in the next 5 months. It's a passionate scene. People are searching sorcery all the time. So you're doing great. You're going to be monetized over 1,000 subs. And be the real deal, making 5 cents a month. You'll see.
Hell yeah. Wow. It's really going to life change stuff there. All right, man.
Yeah.
Well, have a good night. And
you too.
Yeah. See you later.
Thanks. Take care, buddy.